So I think I found a pretty cool way to mount my TV. And the awesome thing about it is that no matter where we're at inside the covered patio, outside, or in the pool, the TV always comes with us. And the thing that enables this to happen is that the TV is able to slide along to wherever we want it to go pretty easily, and then it's able to rotate 360 degrees in whatever direction we need it to go, so that the TV is always pointing in the optimal direction for where we're at. So believe it or not, I knew how I wanted to mount the TV before I even built the covered patio that it goes in. About 2 to 3 years ago, I saw a viral video where I saw somebody mount their TV exactly like this, and I knew this is exactly what I wanted to do. But since doing this, I've realized why more people haven't done this. And it's not because it's overly complicated, it's actually pretty basic. The entire thing just consists of a big aluminum rail that runs the full length that you want the TV to be able to slide. Inside of that rail, there's a trolley with a bunch of bearings that locks inside of it and slides back and forth. From that trolley is connected to a vertical pole that comes straight down to the back of the TV that connects into a pretty standard looking vase mount. The only thing is that vase mount is able to connect to the vertical pole. Then all the wires go up through the pole into what's called a drag chain. And that drag chain is what holds all the wires and moves them back and forth with the TV mount. And all of that sits inside of that black plastic J channel up there. So then into the DIY part of this project, where we actually had the work of putting this up, that wasn't too bad either. The hardest part, and the part that you have to start off with, is putting up the rails. These are big, heavy aluminum rails. For my project, I ended up going with 4 78-inch sections. They sell them in much longer lengths. I think they sell them in 12-foot lengths. And being that my entire patio is 24 feet long, I really wanted to order 2 12-foot lengths so that I only had one joint. But that really wasn't an option when shipping came into play. Shipping 2 12-foot rails was going to be like 3 to 4 times the cost of shipping 4 of the 78-inch long rails. So we went with the 4 78-inch rails. So that meant that I had more joints, which was going to make it a little bit more difficult. For me, it started off with taking the rails and pre-drilling holes into them. When I drilled those holes, I drilled a hole all the way through, and then I used a countersink bit so that the screws or fasteners that I was going to use will sit flush on the front of the rail, and I think it aesthetically looks really, really nice. Then after I had all the holes pre-drilled, I came back one night and used the laser level to mark out a line that was level from one side of the patio all the way to the other side as a starting point to help me hang those rails up on the beam. Yet again, another difficult part of this was actually getting the rails on the beam. These things are thick, solid aluminum rails, and they're not light. And I also 3D printed a plastic piece that goes inside those rails, so when those 2 rails were coming together, they were held nice and tight and flush to each other. That was one really difficult part of this, was keeping those joints coming together flush, because this is kind of like a train track. You have the solid roller bearings inside of that trolley, and if there is any minute little difference in level between the 2 rails, you're going to hear a bump when it's going from one rail to the other, kind of like a train. So that was one thing that I really wanted to try to eliminate. I did the best that I could. These things are so close. They are less than like a human hair, like a 1/28th of an inch or something off. I mean, they were so close. I got them as close as I could, and I'm just going to have to live with them now. Obviously, having 2 larger rails, 2 12-foot rails, and only having 1 joint would have been so much nicer, but that wasn't an option that I was willing to pay for, or I don't even know if they wanted to ship them to me at the price or the way that we were going to have to do that. Then once the main rail pieces are on, then the trolley goes in, and there's 2 bumpers that go in on either side so that the trolley can't actually come out of the rails. The pole connects to the trolley, and really there's just a big ring at the top that's installed with like a set screw so that the pole can rotate 360 degrees around on that trolley, and the set screw just holds it in place down there. Then coming to the TV, we actually have the vase mount that we have on the back here, and it connects just on these kind of like these pole clamps that go on here. This is the non-tilt version of the mount that they offer. The tilt version, it enables you to get more tilt out of the TV, obviously. I will tell you, in installing this and doing this, you do get a little bit of natural tilt with the pole, so the pole tilts back just a little bit, a few degrees. And then one thing that I did was I went with the non-tilt version, because the tilt version is like 2 to 3 or more times expensive, and I'm trying to save a little bit of money where I can here. What I did was put very, very small spacers on the bottom side of the TV mount where it mounts to the TV, and I put much larger spacers on the top. That way it naturally tilts the TV down. If I want more tilt later, I can continue to just put bigger spacers up top and smaller spacers on the bottom and keep extending these screws. Obviously, that's probably not the most ideal way to do it, but it's kind of the cheater way to get the tilt that you need without paying for the crazy expensive bracket. And so far, it looks like it's working perfectly fine. Then to actually make this thing work, I needed to get some cables to the TV. To do that, I installed the plastic J-channel up there flush with the bottom of the beam. And when I installed this, I didn't actually have enough room. I only have an inch between the top of the J-channel and the horizontal beam above it. The directions wanted at least 1.5 inches, but I'll tell you that it actually works. So something to keep into consideration if you're doing this, you gotta have a decent amount of space up there to mount these two things. But once that J-channel was installed, then I went ahead and preloaded the 2 wires that I was gonna run to my TV inside of the drag chain. And the 2 wires that I have in there is a power cable and an Ethernet cable. The Ethernet cable just plugs into the back of the TV so that we don't have any buffering issues. Yes, maybe someday I'll put a little Wi-Fi extender or something out here, maybe a router, so that we have Wi-Fi out on the patio and the pool. God forbid you didn't have Wi-Fi. But for right now, we have Ethernet running to the TV, so we're not gonna have any buffering or loading issues, given that this is a smart TV. It's all kind of contained in one there, which is really nice. And then the most important thing is that we needed power. So I just have an extension cord with 3 plugs on the end of it that I ran through that drag chain. It comes down here and gives me power for multiple different devices. One thing that you do need to consider when you're putting cords into drag chain, that drag chain winds up those cables and then unwinds them. And the process of winding them and unwinding them over and over and over again is going to deteriorate those cables, and they're going to have to be replaced at some point. For a homeowner like me that's using this, 3 of the 4 seasons of the year and not using it every single day, I think they're going to be good for a really long time, but only time will tell with that, and something that I want to throw out there kind of as a warning. Then the drag chain assembly with the wires already inserted into it gets put into the J channel, and I just fed that in all the way to the house side, attached the drag chain at the house, and plugged in the wires to the pre-done outlet that I already had up there. Then on the other side, the drag chain gets looped around and it attaches to a bracket that's on the trolley. From there, I zip tied the wires to the drag chain so that they couldn't be pulled out of that chain. I ran the wires in and down through the pole, and I left myself at the top of the pole, I left myself with an extra loop of wires. And the reason that I did that is so that when the TV is turned at kind of the normal position, there's a big loop of wires up top there. And I left myself enough where I'm able to rotate the TV over 180 degrees around this way without those wires binding up or kind of twisting too bad. And then if that didn't get me enough angle, I can always rotate the TV around this way, back the other way, yet again over 180 degrees, and the wires still won't bind up or loop up or twist up too bad up there, so that I have enough rotation to get the TV where I need it to go. Because obviously you could sit here and you could spin this thing around and around and around and around as many times as you want, but those wires are always going to get twisted and bind up, and so that's a potential problem. So I just left myself a little loop of wire there. You probably could run the wires up and over the top of the pole and down in, but they're still going to twist just in a different direction. So this was my solution to that. Then the wires run down the pole and come out the bottom here, and kind of I have them looped up here. My wire management at the moment isn't the greatest in the world. I just have my power cable here with 3 outlets connected to it, and I have a power cable going to the TV and then a power cable going down to the soundbar. Those could be kind of attached there a little bit better, but that'll be something that I kind of do in the future as I learn what I like about this and what I don't. So then as far as actual TV is concerned, there's multiple different roads you can go with this, depending on really how much you want to spend. I think the ideal way to go is probably buying an outdoor TV, but in looking at outdoor TVs, something that is like UV, moisture, dust rated, that's designed to be in an outdoor space, they're crazy expensive. And that wasn't really what I wanted to spend right now. The other direction is going something that's super, super cheap. Going and buying a $200–300 TV, putting it out here, using it for a season, 2 or 3, or however long it makes, and you feel pretty good about you know, making it disposable after a few years if it goes bad. I kind of met in the middle ground here. So this is a Hisense U8, and the reason that I selected this TV was, number one, this is a kind of a discontinued version of that TV. They just had come out with a new version of that TV, so I got this one at a really good deal, and I couldn't pass it up. But more than that was because it was highly rated for bright rooms. It has a coating on the front of the TV that is really reflective resistant, so you're not going to get a whole lot of reflections on here or as much as some other TVs, and that's really nice out here in bright environments. And then this TV was also rated really good for bright rooms, and because of its high peak brightness. So for those two things, I picked this TV, and I haven't been disappointed. On like the vivid or high brightness modes of the TV, we can see this thing anywhere. Anywhere inside the patio, it is definitely visible. And then after 12 o'clock, we can slide it out to the pool because the overhang of the patio keeps the TV in the shade, and as long as the TV's in the shade, we can see it anywhere. So I've been really happy with this TV so far. And then below it, I found the cheapest Sony soundbar that I could find on Amazon. And not, Sony doesn't really matter, but cheap was what I was going for. The TV speakers are on the back on this, so when you do turn up the volume on this, the sound's just going out into nowhere. Using a soundbar for this is really awesome because you get that directional sound coming to you wherever the TV is pointed. So wherever the TV is pointed, that sound is coming to you. Even if you don't use a really high quality soundbar, getting that directional sound going in your direction seems to be making a huge difference. And then because neither of these are weatherproof, I did buy kind of a weatherproof cover to put over this. And I normally have this cover over it all the time when it's not in use, just in case it rains or anything like that. It's protected from the moisture and dust getting inside the TV. All right, so if you're still watching at this point, it's not because of my entertainment value, it's probably because you're thinking about doing something like this yourself. In the description below, I have listed where you can buy all the products to make this complete system. I've also listed the contact information for the person that helped quote mine and answered all my questions. And their customer service is amazing. And I bought all of this at ErgoMart. But if you are going to contact them out of respect to that company and this person's time, please be a serious buyer only. When this video went viral 2 or 3 years ago of somebody else mounting their TV like this, ErgoMart was flooded with a bunch of people wanting to buy this system. Then they found out how much it cost, and that's the reason that most people haven't done something like this. So by serious buyer, I mean willing to spend in excess of probably $1,000 or $1,500 just for the mounting system, not including the TV or the soundbar. And yes, that's a ton of money. I realize that, and I never thought that I was going to spend this much money on mounting a TV. But once I had it made up in my mind that this is the way that I wanted to do it, I kind of had my mind made up. It was a great thing that I could make a video with and show you guys how I did this. But the big thing was, ultimately, I think this is one of those scenarios where you kind of get what you pay for. And now that I've spent the money and I have it hung up like this, I couldn't imagine doing it any other way. This thing works so well, and it just works. You grab the TV, you move it to where you want, you can twist it, put it wherever you want, you just let it go and you walk away, and it just works. I was searching all over the internet of different ways that I could try to DIY this, finding other rails and different struts that were cheaper and different drag chains that I could buy. And sure, I probably could have pieced something together, but at the end of the day, and I would have probably saved a lot of money, but at the end of the day, it would have never worked as well as this. This just, you come out, you grab it, you move it where you want, and it just works. So I feel comfortable that this is one of those scenarios that I got what I paid for. So yes, it's expensive, but now that I've done it, I couldn't imagine doing it any other way. So if this is something that's in your budget, please contact them. They're great, and they'll get you set up, and they'll get things going. Ultimately, for me, the most expensive part was actually the shipping. The shipping on this stuff was insane. These are like the aluminum rails. I can't stress enough how heavy those things are. These are big kind of commercial, industrial mounts and parts. They're not cheap stuff, and it was heavy, and the shipping was a lot. So if you have a freight address, or you could do local pickup, I think they're located in Texas, that could greatly reduce the cost of this whole system. But overall, I'm pretty happy. So If you have any further questions or I didn't answer anything that you need to know about this, please leave them down in the comments and I'll be hopefully glad to get to those and respond back to you. If you enjoyed the video or you like this mount, a thumbs up definitely helps the channel. And if you want to see any of the other projects that I'm doing in here, out there, or around, subscribing is the way to do that. But ultimately, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope to see you guys in another video.